Welcome back to Scale Workshop. I'm Brett Green, and today we're going to be talking about post shading. In an earlier Scale Workshop video we discussed pre-shading. This is a technique where before you actually apply the camouflage coat to the model, you paint dark lines along panel lines and other structural details. That way, when you paint the camouflage colours over the top, some of the dark colour can show through. You can actually stop when you think you've achieved an effect that looks good from your point of view. On the other hand, post-shading is a technique, as the name implies, where you apply that shading after you've painted your camouflage colours. I've always been a little bit wary of post-shading because there's very little margin for error and it's quite easy to go overboard. We're going to discuss a few tricks and tips that might help us to achieve a realistic effect without going overboard. I've already started pre-shading Tamea's brand new Focke-Wulf 190 A8R2, which is the Sternbock version, just out in Japan in the last month or so. You can see I've basically finished the camouflage. The very glossy coat is Polyscale Gloss, which achieves a nice finish for your decals. It's also a great way to actually protect your paintwork. And you can apply your post-shading coat straight over the top of this. If we look at the bottom of the aeroplane, we'll see that on the yellow we've applied some post-shading dark spray along the panel lines, but also some random streaking where we might have seen some weathering on the real aircraft. So let's continue our weathering now. We have loaded into our Testa's Aztec A470 airbrush a very thin mix of a red-brown colour. What I've done is put basically a third of a cup of thinners in here, and then just applied with the end of the paintbrush, the wooden end, not the actual brush end. I've put 2 spots of a dark brown colour and 2 spots of flat black. Mix that up, and what we wind up is with a very thin mix, almost a milk sort of a texture, although obviously a little darker in colour, for our post-shading coat. You really don't want it much thicker than that. You're much better off having the paint too thin and have to go over it in a couple of coats, rather than have it too thick and go overboard right from the beginning. So we have the paint cup loaded up. Let's turn on the compressor. I like to just shoot the airbrush first, clear any little blockages that might be there, and what we can do is just spray. What I'm doing here is I'm just spraying onto a sheet of plain paper, and it gives us an idea of how fine a line we can get, how thin the paint is, and you'll see we can actually achieve quite a thin line, very little overspray, and you can also see that the paint is very, very thin indeed. That's about what we need for our post-shading stage.